So yesterday was Mother's Day, right?
It was.
So the title of today's episode is Dear Mama. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Skip Wyss, the Bowtie Chiropractor, and I have Dr. Fairy Fingers with me again today, the mom extraordinaire, Dr. Julie. And for those of you out there listening right now, get on over to YouTube, watch us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, share this to as many people as you can, leave comments below. We truly love hearing your feedback on our podcast. They are starting to incredibly take off, even more out of the pediatric space and chiropractic space, moving into the business community, moving into the parenting community. Just share us to whoever you want, because today's episode is going to be remarkable. I've been thinking about this for a very long time, and I wanted to bring Dr. Julie in on this and talk about it because Mother's Day just happened yesterday. And Mother's Day is an incredible day. A lot of people chalk it up with a Hallmark holiday like Valentine's Day and Father's Day and Flag Day and all these other days. But Mother's Day is an extremely important day to me. And I think it's an important day to you because I get to celebrate the women in my life that have had tremendous impact on me, which is my mom, my grandmas, you, and how you take care of our children. But it's also a tough day for a lot of women out there because it could be a day of sorrow where they've lost their mom, they've lost their grandmothers, they may have lost children, they may have lost children before children were born. And that's really hard on moms. And every year on Facebook, I see a post every year. I know it's every year where somebody makes a post about how hard Mother's Day was and they can't stand Mother's Day because they haven't been able to bear children or give birth. And I think that that is one of the most inopportune definitions of what motherhood is. Because if we actually look at the dictionary and look at the definition, according to Oxford, mother is a noun, and it's a woman in relationship to her child or children. So let me ask you the obvious question right off the bat, Dr. Julie. Do you actually have to give birth to be a mom?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Because we have an entire family system out there based off of being foster parents, being parents that have adopted children, being parents of children that aren't adopted, that you're just taking care of, right? Mm-hmm. Aunts can be mothers in a way, just like we have neighbors that turn into grandmas, and they're not related to our children, but they love our children just as much as we do, and they take care of them and mentor them just as much as we do. And I want to hold a lot of space for our moms in our office because we've seen a lot of loss, right? We haven't actually lost any births, any pregnancies on our end ever, but that doesn't make us perfect. And there's a lot of moms that we see in our office and in our community that have lost children. And my heart goes out to them, but that doesn't make them any less of a woman than what's sitting here in front of me today. And if we go back to how wonderful it is to have you in our life and take care of our children, you give our children a tremendous form of balance to me in my chaos that I bring into our lives. But you bring on a sense of poise, structure, integrity, and also a sense of self-worth to all of our children. And moms do something incredibly valuable to men in their lives. Whether you are mothering a child, whether you're mothering your husband, you're bringing them and revalidating their self-worth every day. And to you moms out there, I just wanted to let you know, and all the women out there that are listening to this today, that just because you haven't given birth to a child or haven't had that opportunity or blessing doesn't mean that you're not an amazing mother to another person in your life, and you're causing tremendous and impacting them tremendously because of the time, effort, and talents you brought into them. So, Dr. Julie, off of my 5-minute monologue, I'm sorry. How is it that you go about bringing value and strength into each one of our children?
Chores. No.
Chores?
That's a really good question. I think just being there, like we've talked about, just being there for them. Our children are much different when they are together versus when they are one-on-one.
I agree with that.
So I think just finding that time to be one-on-one, like if it was an only child, and to give them that time, that space, hold them accountable for the things that they should and shouldn't do.
Okay. How do you bring a sense of strength and value into our son?
Teaching him, showing him. You know, he's at an age of chivalry isn't dead.
No, it's not.
And so the expectation of if he's not seeing it someplace else, of how he can learn what the things that he should do, and having just honest conversations. Our biggest conversations happen after we say prayers at bedtime. That's when our conversations come of, you know, if somebody was mad at somebody, we're not mad anymore, but we talk.
Yeah. And I know that you lead that way. And I found it really interesting. I heard a statistic the other day on the family radio station here in Green Bay. It's a Christian radio show and station. And they talked about the top 5 most attended Sundays out of the year for a Christian. And for church. And it's Easter, Christmas Eve, Mother's Day. And I find it very, very interesting that Mother's Day is the day that most people go to church. But why is that? That's a question.
That's a question.
Yeah.
Well, if you think of if mom is head of household, okay, or right, I always say that if moms don't start to take care of himself, the family's going to fall apart as a family unit. So dad may be that figurehead, but if mom is the one holding the pieces together, if it's not something that they regularly, routinely, you know, do church on a Sunday, at least we have maybe a few highlights that we can use a holiday. And if Mom's Day is all about me, then if mom says we're going to go to church, then that's what's going to happen.
Right. And if we look in the Bible and we look at teachings in the Bible and how it's wrote out, the father is actually supposed to be the leader of the household for religion. And I find that that's not the case in most houses. Because if that was the case, Father's Day should be the number 1 attended church service in the world.
It's probably the most emptiest.
It's probably the most emptiest besides a Packer Sunday. Because when we think about Father's Day, what do we think about? Grilling out, dad goes and golfs.
Golfing, soccer, outside.
Maybe dad takes a nap down in the basement somewhere. And it evolves around family, but it evolves around outdoor activity. Where Mother's Day is brunch or lunch or a really nice dinner or nice breakfast and spending time with that person. Because the mom brings the love into the household. They bring the warmth into the household. And I feel that a dad can do the exact same thing, and he should do the exact same thing. But he's not making the actual choice and decision to do that. Which in my mind is not okay. And I might get in a lot of trouble for this, saying this to you all on our podcast and saying this on video. But dads need to step up a little bit more and become that leader in the house to help guide religion, guide Christianity, guide the faith of the house, so mom can sit back and actually work with the dad with religious purpose, with Christianity. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
But how do you help lead in that sense then? Because I feel that I lead, but you're just as equal a part of that in our household as any other household.
Well, if mom is setting the schedule or hustle and bustle of getting people, you know, to and from different things, then it's a set schedule of if it's before dinner, after dinner, if it's lunchtime, if you host, it doesn't matter the time, but then there needs to be time set aside to do a Bible study.
Yep.
Or there needs to be, there's many churches that have services every night.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's scheduling that into the system that then we're at that service, or we're at a youth group, we're at a, church event. I know just even here in our local area, the churches are always having different types of meetups and meetings and gatherings. It would be just starting to add those things to your calendar. And if it needs to have that mom to put that on the calendar to say, okay, kids, get in the car, we're leaving. But then if dad can take charge after that, I think that would be a really good starting point.
Yeah, I think that would be working together. And we see that mom is kind of the figurehead in holding the whole family together. Because what I've seen is that when the grandmother passes away in a family, if she's gone, unless dad is truly established and is serious about relationships with his kids, you slowly see that pull away too over time, where the kids don't get together as much anymore on holidays and for gatherings, where if it's just grandpa involved or just the dad, that whole family nucleus just kind of falls apart. But if we look back to Adam and Eve, Adam wanted somebody with him. He didn't want to be in the garden by himself. He wanted a companion. He wanted a piece. And when God made Eve from a piece of Adam, I think this is really important to understand that when we look at relationships between spouses, everybody concentrates on the physical. They really do. A lot of people concentrate on physical attraction and the physicalness of the family and the physicalness between husband and wife, male and female. But if we look at the context of how Eve was created, she was created from a piece of Adam, a small physical piece. So the physicality and the emotional and the sexual relationship that's there between spouses or husbands and wives should be small, versus the religious aspect of God and spirit being in that family. Because when the physical attraction wavers, when it goes away, or somebody gets hurt or maimed, or they aren't as attractive as they once were, you have to be able to rely on the actual mental, emotional, and spiritual attraction that was there, that's founded on God, that should be the massive base of that household. And then the physical on top is the last thing, because it was the smallest piece taken from Adam to create Eve. And I think that is something that a lot of people look beyond. But when you see these families and you see these husbands and wives over years, and I find it cute when I see you see these pictures out on Facebook and on the internet of a grandma and grandpa holding hands and walking down a street. We see the black and whites and stuff, and everybody thinks it's Italy, or like you see the grandma pinch the grandpa's butt because there is some form of physical attraction there, which I hope still happens, but hopefully you find my butt. Those areas, you see that strong bond, and the mom is still in the picture. So how does, from your perspective, from a mother's perspective, because if we look at another definition of mother, it's an important female figure. It's an important female figure in the origin or early history of something.
Well, you're only here because of a mom.
Right. She's the early history of all of us, right? Mm-hmm. You're the early history of all of our children. Mm-hmm. And for the moms, for the women out there that haven't actually given birth, you're the origin history in somebody's life that you're parenting, mothering, and guiding. You're number one. And if you ask the most recent memory for somebody of their most impactful memory, it's usually early on in their life where that woman had a massive impact on them.
It's any type of when a woman is in a leadership role, right? If you have that title, I mean, it could be within a group or an organization. People are going to look up to you. And so just by that title, you're going to become a mother type of a role. That doesn't mean that it's physically your child.
Right. I mean, my best friends in high school, their moms were all moms to me. Like, I called them mom, fooling around, because they meant the world to me. And when we look at the verb of a mom, which you're looking at like the third present tense of this, it's to look after someone kindly, protectively, and someone sometimes excessively so. Where they're mothering me, which can have a negative connotation. but I love to be mothered at some point. Most men do when they're sick, right? Getting the men cold. So when we look at that, where can moms and women out there show themselves a little bit of grace if they haven't had a child, if they haven't been able to bear a child? Where can they show themselves grace? Where can they find that silver lining, that hope?
I think it's for them to realize like they're here for a purpose, you know, and if right now is not the right time for a child, you're serving a bigger purpose of you're here for somebody else. And I think to take inventory of that, to step back and, well, what circles are you in? Are you actually realizing that, you know, you're in a huge supportive role, or you're an executive in a company, and like that company needs you, or that purpose of that, or that mission of that company is so much bigger that you're maybe even realizing that if you would have a child, then that company would struggle. And maybe that company's mission was mission work someplace else that's impacting even more children. So I think just really realizing what you're doing, the impact that you're making. And while maybe you don't have that child currently right in front of you, your impact is so much bigger. Mm-hmm. And I think once we start to step back and realize that, or those of us that have kids, that like, okay, maybe it's just our two children, but realizing the impact is that much bigger, that we're reaching so many more children.
So what are the areas that our children have taught you? You know, as a mother, you have a teaching role where you teach and you lead. And I do as a dad too, but where have our children actually taught us areas in our lives that we can be conscious of, to know that they teach us just as much as we teach them?
Patience, growth, planning,
yeah.
Things are never going to go as planned. Sometimes you just need to not have an agenda.
We talked about that last episode about structured versus unstructured time, right?
Yep.
I think our children have really taught us how to communicate, because they're two different people. And you being my wife, I mean, you've taught me how to communicate. Actually, I have 3 different people in my life that I have to communicate totally different to, which is a great thing, because in healthcare and in patient care, like I have to communicate different to every mom, every dad, and every child that comes in here. But to be able to talk to everyone and make sure that what we're trying to achieve in that conversation is heard, the people felt heard, listened to, loved, and seen, is the most important thing. Like, for example, our son really did something very unintelligent the other day, and I was super upset. But not so much the fact that what he did impacted me, but what he did could have impacted him very, very negatively. But after I had got done being upset with him, I felt horrible about it, because I did yell at him, but I just didn't want him to be hurt. I was trying to protect him. And as a mom, you're designed to protect people. You protect me every day. You protect our children every day through the words you say, the discipline or the love you give, and then through the time that you spend with us. So you're a pretty incredible mom. And we have some pretty incredible mothers out in our communities that need to be celebrated every day. And you are the origin of who we are. You are the reason why we exist, and you are the reason why our households are so amazing. And even to our dog moms and our pet moms out there and our cat moms, you still love that animal. You still love the people in your lives. And you have every bit of credit on Mother's Day as everybody else does to be celebrated. And for that, we celebrate you. Now, I want to give a little props to some of the women in my life that have had a tremendous impact on me. And number 1 is you. Number 2 is my mom. And my grandmas. But Bruce Stetzer and Betty Wyss, they were tremendous on me. But my mom, super important. You know, and they say that a man will end up marrying his mother, and they don't end up marrying their entire mom. Okay, I hope not. But they find women in their lives with the same exact endearing qualities that gave them the strength to be who they are and to lead them who they are. Because my mom, her name's Lois, she goes by Chipper, she told me that I could be whatever I wanted. And she never made sure that I had limiting beliefs in my head of who I could be and who I was supposed to be. She just told me every day that she knew I was going to change the world. And you do the same thing to our kids without anybody ever telling you that. And our moms out there that are giving people this guidance, this leadership, this fulfillingness in their lives, is that every one of you tell somebody that they can be whoever they want to be. They're going to be amazing, because you're not trying to limit them. You're just trying to make them get the success and the faith and the structure behind of who they're supposed to be, and give them the leadership and courage that they're designed to have. And my mom just went through some huge changes in her life, and so has your mom. I mean, in the last 5 years, our moms have went through a few things, but they've been very impactful on both of us. And you talk a lot about your grandmas were super impactful on you as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I know this episode didn't go in the direction that everybody wanted to, but I wanted to show everybody and talk about the importance of the moms in your life and the importance of the women that have had tremendous impacts on every one of you out there. If you're a man or you're a woman, you've had a female in your life, a mom figure, impact you, lead you, and make you be who you are today. And if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be the person looking in the mirror, good, bad, it doesn't matter. Your mom had a tremendous impact on all of you. And because of that, you are who you are today. I know I am. So from the bottom of my heart, I love you all very, very much. Be sure you go out there, check us out, listen to us on Facebook, on our podcast. We truly love you. Today was a fun day for me because I get to celebrate you and the moms in my life. And I knew I'd get emotional at some point because you have such a tremendous impact on me. And I knew Dr. Julie wasn't going to say a whole lot because that's just not the type of woman she is. But I just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done for our children and for everyone that we've had. Because without you, we wouldn't be who we are. And without my moms, and without my grandmas, and without your grandmas and your mom, you wouldn't be the person you are today either. So we love you, moms. Take care. Now go out there, get it done. Keep making an impact. Bye, everyone.